Hello, this is Dr. Bryson for another video for CRJU 293. In this video, we are going to talk briefly about Emil Durkheim. I think it's very important for us to understand Emil Durkheim because not only did he look at the problem of crime, although it was indirect, but he also looked at the problem of youth suicide. The way that Durkheim saw it in the late 1800s and into the very early 1900s, um, suicide and juvenile delinquency were related to the Industrial Revolution. So let's just talk about this, okay? Durkheim looked at um, the different revolutions, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution. And he noted that these revolutions caused very swift changes in society. Now, Durkheim was French, he was not American, but he noticed that these revolutions caused tremendous changes in society very quickly. We then had a technological revolution, and that's when we started having more computers and cell phones and things like that. Well, now we're having a digital revolution. So the Industrial Revolution allowed the technological revolution. Technological revolution is where we're able to develop all of these technologies now. But the technological revolution now has given us the hardware that we need for the digital revolution, which is automated intelligence, or as some folks will say, artificial intelligence, but AI tends to mean automated rather than artificial in most circles. But we have a digital revolution now where it's not so much the gadgets themselves, but the programs that we can put on those gadgets. So we went from the Industrial Revolution making things much quicker, like furniture could be made more quickly. Things like that could happen to the technological revolution. Well, now we've got new technologies in addition to the ones that we already had that took years to develop. And now we have the digital revolution, which is allowing that technology to be used in more and more diverse ways that can be concerning to many people. So Emil Durkheim, and that is a photograph of him, by the way, was what we call a sociological functionalist. They believed that everything in society served a function. Now, many sociological functionists believe that all of those things needed to be there in order to serve that function. There are some sociological functionalists that believe that we can fix social problems by finding something to serve that function that does not harm others. So for Durkheim, the problem of juvenile delinquency and juvenile and youth suicide rates served a function in society. Modern functionalists would say, okay, maybe it does serve a function in society, but we don't have to have them. We can find something that doesn't involve committing crime and youth committing suicide that can serve that same function. So let's look at what Emil Durkheim really said. He said that there are two different types of society. There is the mechanical society and the organic society. The mechanical society is the more traditional agrarian or agricultural farm community. So a lot of homogeneity, meaning that the community has a very strong shared value system. It means that we live our lives very similarly. You might be able to go into any home at, say, 6 p.m. and find the family sitting at the table eating dinner in every home in the community. in this mechanical community. There's a minimum division of labor. Now, some folks see that and they think that he's talking about gender roles. He's not talking about gender roles. He's not talking about the division of labor amongst genders. He's talking about the different divisions of labor within a society. For example, in an agricultural community, in these old agricultural communities, so if we were going to go back to the 1600s, we might have a few what we call specialists. So we'd have a blacksmith, we'd have a minister, you might have a doctor, you might have a judge and attorneys that travel a circuit that come around every once in a while, and you might have a grist mill that grinds up the grain for you. Those would be the only specialists. Pretty much everybody else is going to do everything else. So very, very, very simple division of labor in society. Very few specialists were needed. Well, then let's look at the organic society, or what Emil Durkheim called organic solidarity. There was a lot of heterogeneity, meaning that their value systems were very, very different. There wasn't a true shared culture anymore that was so singular as in the agrarian societies. Now, cities developed a shared culture, but even if you go into different neighborhoods, they're very, very different. There was a mutual interdependence. So rather than an independence where we can still rely on our friends, no, we've got to have each other. Now, why do we have to have each other? Because I can't grow my own food. I've got to have you. See, in an agrarian society, I grow my own food. I don't rely on you. I rely on me. I've got my own farm out here. I grow my own food. I do my own hunting and raise my own chickens for eggs, and my own pigs for bacon, and my own cows for beef. So, but in an organic society, we don't have that. So there has to be a mutual interdependence. I have something that I can do that's very singular. You don't. Why? Because we've got this more specialized or complex division of labor. So rather than having someone who knows how to build a chair, we now have somebody that knows how to put the spindles here and then to put this part of the chair together here. And so we've got a much more complex division of labor. So we've got doctors. Well, we've got to have more lawyers because of the business dealings. We got to have business folks. We got to have managers. We've got to have laborers. We've got to have more restaurants because people are eating out more. So we start to add all of these special things. Okay, all of these special things. Now, a good way of thinking about this is before the U.S. Civil War, there were very few majors in college. People that went to college to get a degree, in general, did not have a major. They were there to learn how to think critically. They would read all of the great works of philosophy leading up to their own times. They would learn ancient languages and modern languages to help them understand the ancient world, but also the modern world. And education was about making yourself a better, well-rounded person in your thinking and wisdom. Nowadays, it's about political indoctrination, but it is about learning a trade. Since the U.S. Civil War, we've become more and more specialized. So education went from being developing the person to adding to this complex division of labor in society. Okay. So what Durkheim said is that crime serves a function in a fast developing, changing industrial society. We're not catching up with our abilities, with our technological and scientific abilities. The rest of humanity is not catching up. Now, he also said that these rapid changes increased the suicide rates amongst youth. Now, what's interesting is that beginning in the early 90s, the juvenile delinquency rates started to drop, as well as youth suicide. But with the advent of Facebook and and social media now becoming more prevalent, here we are, we're beyond the technological revolution, we're in the digital revolution. So we've got social media so that bullying can take place 24/7. See, when I was in high school, if you were being bullied, you got to go home and the bullying stopped. It doesn't stop anymore when you get home because it's online, it's on the social media. But we've got that. What's interesting is that juvenile delinquency rates appear to be rising again. Youth suicide rates have clearly rose again. And we're in the same kind of situation that Durkheim was in when he was theorizing. I think it's important that we understand that we understand the demands on youth when we begin to work with them in the juvenile justice system. Not just boys, even though this unit is on the boys, but all youth when we're working with them. See, I'm 60 years old. Social media didn't come about until I was over 40, well over 40. If somebody tried to bully me online, who cares? Right? I'm old enough to not care anymore. But a 13, 14-year-old, that's very different because their world is very different than a 60-year-old man's. Okay? Just something that's important for us to understand. We'll see you next video.